next Alex Ray. The topic is analyzing threats to water quality from motorized recreation on Payette Lake. Alex Ray is a McCall native, McCall Donnelly High School, 2001, graduate of Willamette University in Salem, Oregon, with a BA in Spanish and Geography, and recently a Master's of Environmental Management degree in Integrative Public Lands Management from Western Colorado University. He worked in trail recreation and aquatic resource management programs for the Forest Service, the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and various other organizations from 2001 to 2018. Alex currently owns and operates a local recreation management consulting business. Alex, to you.
Okay, thank you. So as Gary mentioned, I'm a McCall native, and I recently performed my graduate thesis research on analyzing threats to water quality from motorized recreation on Payette Lake. The reason I chose to undertake this project is because there was a lot of debate about the no wake zone was being reconsidered at that time, and I wanted to see if the 300-foot no wake zone was sufficient to protect environmental resources on Payette Lake. So I undertook 3 research areas, partly to provide baseline conditions on the lake, so these other studies like Frank's performing could have something to work off of, and to just kind of see what's out there, what are we looking at, and what are the potential impacts. So I analyzed wind wave regimes on the lake. I measured surface waves from wake boats and other motorized watercraft, and I modeled the depth influence of wake boat slipstreams. The first thing I did was the wind wave analysis. And physics behind wind waves are very well established based on the direction of the wind, the amount of time the wind is blowing, and the fetch, or the amount of free water that the wind is blowing over. Payette Lake, because it's fairly small, is considered fetch limited, and the waves will only reach so big of a height because of that, no matter how hard the wind blows. These 2 graphs right here show wind blowing across 1 and 2.5 kilometer fetches at both 1 and 2 hour durations. And you can see that the graphs are very similar. To measure these wind waves, I deployed 2 wind sensors in the southwest basin of the lake, and I also gathered data from NOAA about wind conditions during the ice-free periods of the year. A normal wind wave regime on the lake, you see average heights of 2 to 4 inches. Typical storm events like we see in the summer can produce waves up to 8 inches high, and storms in wind conditions may occur at times that produce waves up to 12. What's important about these wind waves compared to boat wakes is that the wavelength of wind waves is significantly shorter than similar waves created by motorized watercraft, meaning that the wakes from the motorized watercraft are imparting far more energy on the lakeshore than these wind waves. That's important when you're looking at erosion and sediment disturbance at the near shore. The next area of my study, I looked at motorized watercraft surface waves. I deployed an underwater pressure sensor, sampling at 10 times per second to do this, and I spent many hours on the lake, mostly in the North Basin, around the cliffs area, and then some on the west side of the lake, just south of North Beach. What I found from this analysis, like a lot of other study craft out there, and specifically in regard to the 300-foot no wake zone boundary, produced a wave that was 7.75 inches high when it reached shore. When you look at the wind waves that we see, that's significantly larger than an average wind wave regime. I was able to capture a lot of wake boats operating, producing a wake that were operating within the 300-foot no wake zone boundary. I found that a wake boat operating 135 feet from shore produced a wave that was 9 inches high when it reached shore. Again, significantly larger than the wind waves we're seeing on the lake. And again, due to the greater height and wavelength of these motorized watercraft waves, the wakes produced by motorized watercraft carry far more energy than the wind waves on Payette Lake. This is also, again, important when you're looking at shoreline erosion. Not a lot of research has been done over the years on wake boats specifically, but the results that I found were consistent with data collected by researchers from Quebec and the University of Tasmania in 2018, and that was work that was performed on the Willamette River. Other studies have been done, but they've been done in very shallow water. And while the initial wave height was the same, you saw quicker attenuation in the shallower water. The next thing that I looked at was modeling of the wakeboat slipstreams, or the jet of water that comes off the propeller, or the prop wash. The theoretical basis for these studies was work done in the early 2000s by researchers with Pennsylvania State University, and they validated this work in field studies for prop washes and propeller boats. I modeled numerous different boats. I gathered the initial data. I personally collected some of this data, and I also crowdsourced a lot of this data to get the initial RPM and boat speeds to produce these curves. What I found is that the slipstream has the potential to impact up to 10 meters in the water column with enough force to potentially disturb the sediments of the type that we see in Payette Lake. One thing that I controlled for in these calculations was the angle of the prop. I assumed that the boat was sitting at 0, and that as the boat went through its transition phase into planing and moved through up to a range of about 15 degrees. I determined this by, I had a device, accelerometer on a wake boat when I was under operation, and saw these angles up to 15 degrees as it moved through its surfing speed. Once I developed those models and determined how deep the slipstream may affect into the water column, I compared that to the 300 meter, or the 300 foot no wake zone boundary in the southwest basin of the lake. So I divided the lake into quarter-mile transects. In each of those transects, I determined the maximum and minimum distance for the 6 and 10 meter contour depth. As you can see from these graphs, portions of the lake were shallower than 10 meters at the 300 foot no wake zone in 13 out of 20 transects. And in 10 out of 20 of those transects, the lake was shallower than 6 meters at the 300 foot no wake zone boundary. This indicates that the turbulence imparted by the model slipstreams is sufficient to disturb sediments in the size classes commonly found in Payette Lake at depths regularly encountered at or beyond the 300 foot no wake zone boundary. Putting all this data together and looking at the conclusions of this, the 300 foot no wake zone boundary likely does not provide sufficient protection against accelerated shoreline erosion and nearshore lake bed sediment disturbance. This is due to both the size of the wakes coming from the wake boats and other motorized watercraft, and the impacts from the prop wash. The second conclusion, there's no one-size-fits-all solution for regulating wake boats or other motorized activities. Every body of water needs to be independently analyzed, and relevant conclusions made towards that body of water. Attenuation, and both of these systems need to be dealt with appropriately. And the last conclusion is that the time to act and to regulate this technology is now. The technology is always improving, and the next generation of boats is almost on the market. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's called the GigaWave. This is an all-electric boat with 2 300 horsepower motors. Its build is 35 feet long, with weighing up to 30 tons, and with a 28-person capacity. Their kind of tagline is a wave to make Maui jealous. They're taking pre-orders for these boats. They've already field tested some of this, and this is the next thing that we have to look forward to unless we start regulating now. Besides just a no wake zone for a lateral distance across the lake, we're seeing depth being used as a determination for no wake zone, and also weight of motorcraft, just gross weight of the boat to determine whether they're appropriate in the waterway. You know, in a lot of places we're seeing, like Lake Tahoe has a 600 foot no wake zone. A lot of places in the East Coast, we're seeing up to 700 foot no wake zones. And this is partly in anticipation that this technology is only going to get better, and these wakes are only going to get bigger. So that was the quick and dirty. Thank you very much. Here's my contact information. You feel free to contact me with any questions. And if you'd like to hear a longer version of this, I will be presenting for the Midwest Glacial Lake Shoreline Partnership in March. And if you contact me, I can give you more information about that presentation, and it'll be about 3 times as long as this. So thank you very much. Thank you for all the support I got from the community and the Big Payette Lake Water Quality Council to perform this research. And it's been an honor to present for this this webinar series. And
excellent. Thank you, Alex. Let's see from the Q of A. We've got where have depth-based wake zones been established?
Right now that I know of, nowhere has established an actual wake zone based solely on depth. There's a number of lakes in the Midwest that have I guess a depth advisory, but they also have a traditional surface no wake zone to go along with that. And that's really the appropriate application of that, is a surface no wake zone and a depth no wake zone, because of both of those different factors with the prop wash and the surface wake.
Thank you, Alex. We've got another one. Do you have any information on the difference between ski boats and wake boats?
Yes, I do. I collected data from all different types of motorized watercraft when I was out there. I didn't include that in this presentation just because it was, I need to be quick and it wasn't specifically relevant at this moment, but yes, I just answered that question with my email. And if you email me, I can provide you with more of my data for different types of boats. Yep.
Excellent.
I collected data on everything from jet skis to pontoon boats to water ski boats to wake surf boats. So I spent many hours in many high traffic areas on the lake out there.